Witamy na drugim panelu.
So welcome to panel number 2.
Komunikacji w
We'll
szkole. Rozmawiamy.
talk about communication.
Mam przyjemność
Let's
moderować
talk.
ten panel. Nazywam
I
się
have the
Jarosław
pleasure of
reprezentuję
moderating this panel. My name is Jarosław Durszewicz. I represent Grade 3 School Foundation based in Lublin and the Institute of Agile Education. And I think
będzie się pojawiał w naszych
these
dyskusjach.
subjects, these ideas will keep coming up in our discussion. I mean, gradeless schools and agility in schooling. And our guests, our speakers in this panel are
Autorka rekomendacji, które wynikają z tego projektu.
Isabella Mejza, the author of project recommendations. So, you know Isa, I suppose, very well. And not less known, Magdalena Andresdottir, the Department of Education and Youth, City of Reykjavik. We have also with us
Daria
Chmiel from the County Youth Social Therapy Center. She will talk about how to speak to be heard. And we also have with us Sylwia Jaskulska of Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznań.
Uważa, że wszystko, co dzieje się w szkole między ludźmi
And her topic will be everything that happens among people at school is communication. And we also have with us Anna Kędzierska and Marek Cichocki from the company Opowiedz to, which stands for Say It in English. So this panel goes as follows. Isa will share project recommendations. We will address these recommendations. We will discuss them in a moment to find the best way, the best solutions for the schools of Lublin and everywhere else. And of course, feel free to also ask questions and make comments to our discussion when we let you know. Isa, over to you. Hello, good afternoon. I will not take up too much of your time. What I'm going to say should rather be an invitation to have a closer look at our recommendations that we are going to publish on the Lublin website, lublin.eu website. When getting ready for this conference, I asked a couple of questions, what they remember from school. And I want to ask you this very question. What do you remember the most from school when you were pupils, when you were school students? I don't ask for a show of hands or too many questions, but perhaps you have some answers in your head. And just ask yourselves whether this is about communication. Most people I asked this question, they didn't say about the books they read, about obligatory reading, Shakespeare or Mickiewicz or mathematical functions. What they remember from school are words that they heard from other people. So the words we say to our pupils live in these people longer than the knowledge we share with them. That's why words and communication should be the basis of schooling. For the last 9 months, I've worked with a group of great teachers on recommendations concerning communication and how to make communication easier and better. I mean, between teachers, parents, and children. So let me name all the people from my team now. Aneta Sobkowicz, Jolanta Brzozowska. She's somewhere at the back. Małgorzata Mańko-Puderecka. Barbara Cegłowska.
I Judyta Malec.
Judyta Malec.
Przyglądałyśmy się przez ten
So
czas,
for those 9 months, we tried to look at communication in Lublin schools. We tried to perform a diagnosis in 3 school groups. We used surveys, but also a tool that we call a map of empathy map. And of course, we relied on our lessons learned from Iceland. We tried to use tools and methods that help us communicate at school on a daily basis. So what do we learn from that diagnosis in these 3 groups? First, parents' needs. Parents need specific information about their children, about progress at school, but also how children behave. They need honest conversation with the teacher. And of course, some kind of direct and regular contact. They want teachers to be available to talk about what is going on with my son or daughter. Now, what the teachers need. The teachers need trust in a relationship with parents, so that together with parents they play in the same team, and the ultimate goal is the good of the child. But also teachers need specific skills. For example, how to deal with demanding communication situations, how to deal with different issues at school involving parents or children. And they also told us that they needed safe and unbiased, non-judging communication within the teacher's body, within the staff. So when I have a problem as a teacher, I don't want other teachers to say, "Come on, it's great, in my class." No, I would like to hear, all right, let's talk about it, let's find a solution together. So teachers also want unbiased and safe communication within the teacher's body, within the staff. And now the third group, children. Whether you take kids or youth, adolescents, rebelling adolescents, they told us that they needed conversations with adults. But they don't want to hear from adults what they should do or how they should behave. They want to be listened to, and instead of hearing, if you're naughty, you will go to the headmaster, instead, they would like to be listened to, and they would like to build relationships with adults. And of course, children also say they would like to have some influence on how the school works, on some decisions, and they would like to have some room for free conversation, because the problem is children consider school not as a place where they have space for free communication. And now, the last thing, what did we learn from Iceland? What was particularly relevant for me, what I heard from Icelandic colleagues, they say, a teacher in Iceland is never alone. If there is a problem, there is always support. I can see our guests nodding. So, when there's a problem, they have support from either colleagues from school or external institutions that are not there to judge or to audit, but they are there to find a solution. And again, democracy, a great thing, a foundation of many schools. It's not just a dead letter. Teachers, students having a real impact on what the school is like, and their voice is really, really heard. For example, what a school day is like, or how do we arrange our space. Conflict solving. The teacher is not a judge. They will just talk to the child, ask the right questions, and the point is to find a solution and take care of our mutual relationship instead of just fault finding. And what else did I learn from Iceland? Trust is a priority when dealing with parents. I don't remember which one of you, but one of you said, if we don't trust at the beginning of our relationship with parents, this problem will grow over the education period. Because we don't want parents who keep having doubts, who keep checking us, testing us. There's no trust in it. So we have recommendations in 4 areas. Area 1, and I believe it's the most important one, you may disagree of course, it's about the relationships between adults at school, teacher to teacher or teacher to school management. So there should be effective communication within the faculty, within the staff. Of course, there are some best practices that we have listed, they are contained in the document, but now I can tell you the first thing is feedback, and just be open, speak your mind and say people good things. Not only when something's wrong, but also when everything is fine. We should also communicate it. Teachers' meetings that are not too long, that address specific problems. Now we have electronic tools. Such meetings can be shorter, can be more targeted, more involving, so that teachers, when there is a staff meeting, they don't fall asleep. And finally, more support for teachers. So I think this recommendation is pretty important. We can't forget about supervisors or support groups, so groups or space where we can support one another, when we can share what the problem is, because we are the same professional group. Area 2, school-parent communication. Well, some of the needs that we have from the diagnosis are a bit contradictory, because on the one hand, parents want more communication, more relations, but teachers want to keep, their private life. They don't want parents to text them at 10 p.m. on Sunday. So contact is important, but you need to find a balance. You need to respect each other. Teacher-parent conferences or meetings. This is something also that we get inspiration from Iceland about. Such meetings can be also done face-to-face, once or twice a year. It may be with the child or without the child. It's a greater idea to get to know each other better than when a teacher speaks to the whole group of parents. And area 3 is challenging communication situations. Well, we tend to talk about communication when it doesn't work anymore, because if it works, we never talk about it. So such hard or challenging situations require specific attention. So our recommendations are specific procedures, but not something you just write down and keep in your shelf, on your shelf or in your drawer. This should be something live, something really working. If something goes wrong, it should be something we can refer to, follow a simple procedure to solve a problem. So we have listed such simple procedures how to deal with challenging situations in communication. So there are mediations, mini mediations, small talk, a number of tools that you should be able to use, and these are specific procedures. And area 4, supporting communication competence of pupils, of students. Point 1 says here, an adult is responsible for communication with children. If we as adults communicate in a supportive and good way, children will pick it up, children will copy that. So we have to take care of this in the first place, to set the pattern. Next point is listening. Listen to the pupils, to students. Instead of just saying what they should do or shouldn't do, just talk to them. In our diagnosis, the pupils also spoke a lot about integration, that building a nice team, a nice class, it takes time, and it should be done at the beginning of the year, by excursions, by events held together. Because, good communication should rely on good history of our communication. So if we started off of the right foot, it will bear fruit in the future. Next point, decision-making. Brought down to teachers the sense of agency, sense of empowerment, students' councils that may give advice on school issues. Again, instead of saying whether it's right or wrong, we should support such initiatives. Lublin schools have such practices. We have peer-to-peer mediations, we have student councils. It's working already. So that's all about recommendations. Here is the link to the website, and this document will be there soon. Feel free to have a closer look at more details of the document. Thank you, Isa.
Myślę, że czytając te rekomendacje, a warto,
I think reading these recommendations, you can notice that they are authentic.
że one obrazują
They
to, co faktycznie jest w
portray what happens at school. They are not, they are not desired pictures, but they really base on, or maybe they are not wishful thinking documents. They are desired, yes, it's true, but they are really deeply rooted in the reality of the school. And also this diagnosis, as a foundation, we have been able to see that this diagnosis agrees with the whole Poland, national Poland debate on grading, on assessment. This debate is going to take place here in Lublin in one of the centers. And kids today say that we need more trust in relations. Kids say that they need agency. They need to be trusted, to be given more power, to be empowered for their action. They need cooperation and they need more influence on what's going on around them. It's not only agency in communication, but also in organizing learning processes. What they also need is cooperation. Cooperative, collaborative learning, collaborative process of learning and knowledge construction. Now the question goes to the audience and in a way to you, the panelists. When you are ending your pedagogical faculties, please, those who remembers having anything like a class like in feedback giving. Did anyone have classes, regular formal class on your studies? 4 people. Okay, this feedback is actually informational basis and relational basis. This is where you start from. This is where you go to. Among other things, some people say. So now my question is, dear experts, how to make feedback and feedback giving, which is a basic tool in the hands of a teacher and the hands of a student, not in a general sense of communication in school space, but in the main shape of the learning process. So how to make it present, how to make it strong in school spaces in Poland? That's question number 1 to the panelists. Okay, these are experts in communication, so we need to think who's going to talk first. Okay, Ms. Chmiel will start. I just started thinking about your question and how to answer this directly or openly and without going too much into potential details and avenues of options. I represent a socio-therapeutical center. We have a school, we have a secondary school. Let me very briefly present myself as a background for my answer. We have a special needs secondary school, but we realize, but we also do a project for general education, expanding the needs of learners to cover social cultural issues. Kids that come to us, they represent the age bracket from 15 to 21, and they are young people who are either in danger of either social in danger or in risk of social inadjustment, marginalization, behavioral problems. We have relatively small schools, school groups, and we have 64 teachers. So we do have a big group of supporters. And then to answer your question concerning feedback, this is what we start with. In fact, this is our tool number one when we meet our young students. Each class has two teachers assisting the class. The one is a classical teacher, the one at school, and the other who is a socio-therapeutical, let me call it a mentor, who is not a teacher classically, but he deals with kids let's say holistically, with our social status, health status, cooperation with parents, with institutions, environment, that may mean police, custodians, or courts of justice. So we are different from other schools, from, let's say, public schools, in that we have social therapeutical classes. We have a class once per week. There's a regularly part of a school schedule, 2 hours per week, and we have a special groups. They meet, and they meet with a mentor, with this leader of a teacher leader of a group. Okay, just I'm ending up with a background. It is important to show you. My point is, I would like to show you the difference. This is why. Now, so during this class, or at this class, in the course of this class, kids learn a lot of things: psychoeducational issues, group process, group dynamics, and from the very beginning, when they start this class, when they start these engagement, involvement, they start learning one another. So they must learn to communicate in a constructive way. And that means how to learn to give constructive feedback in order to protect myself and my borderlines, my borders, my safe space, without hurting others, without crossing the borders of others' dignity. So it's difficult. It's a difficult process. And when you think about yourselves and your educational histories, and even of your today, are we skilled in making clear-cut borders? Are we skilled in making demarcating our safe spaces in our contact with directors, with the rest of the teachers, with the rest of are we adult enough to solve these issues? What about these kids who come from different or come with different life experiences? Nobody taught them that, and at earlier stages, educational stages, like kindergartens or early primary schools. And now we are perhaps the first moment when they meet adults who are to teach them, to introduce them to this world. So as I understand, your idea is to in fact start learning constructive communication, to use feedback based on I, not on you. It should start as early as possible, as early in the education as possible. Let me, maybe I will refer it in a slightly different way. So I also need the audience support in that. So let me stand up, because I would like all of you to see. Now the background, could you tell me something about me? He's a bald guy. Yeah, he is, right. Anything else? Which of these sentences are fact? Am I tall? According to me, I'm not very tall. I was the lowest in my team. Am I bald? Well, okay, I'm shaven, but am I bald? Am I nice, likable? Oh yeah, from time to time. So, why am I talking about this? We work with in business environment. We are not purely, classically educational environment. However, obviously, we work with people who went through education, and in fact, feedback giving is one of the largest problems among Polish executives. Why? Because we talk about what we believe in, what we believe is true. We say you're behaving badly, but you're not saying directly directly what is it that you do, what kind of behavior you have in mind. So if I say you are tall and you are addressing someone, they are likely to disregard you. I mean, okay, you do not know what you're talking about. So the problem is we need to be back to detail in feedback in communication, and we need to be back to facts to anchor our statements in facts. If we concentrate on facts, so either young or old people or adult people will use it as a source of knowledge. When they get information, they will only get an opinion. That's it. What is it that you can do with opinion? You can accept it or reject it. Nothing to do. I would like to add to this. I actually don't even like the concept of feedback information as much as I don't like these generalities like toleration, feedback. What is it really? I work with students. I'm a professor, a university professor, and I work with students who are going to be teachers. Let's imagine people like your partner cooked you dinner, and okay, and they ask you, okay, could you give me feedback? Or I say, okay, I tolerate you, my dear kid, right? These are those moments when we see what is there behind these concepts. I'm not trying to say that these concepts theoretically are there. It's a good idea to have it, and a good idea to use it. However, we need to do more, because what we need to do is to talk, to communicate, to mention facts, to exchange facts. So the conversation, rather than giving feedback, well, is somewhere in the vacuum. This is what we have. This is what we need in communication. You know what my point is? I don't want to cross the word toleration from our vocabulary. The point is we need to delve deeper. So that's in terms of my feedback information. Thank you very much. That was a very important voice, because when we talk with teachers, when they believe feedback information happens at school, and we ask teachers, and we get a whole, a whole poster about it, because the number of these relations, like students, teachers, directors, headmasters, and so on, all these school stakeholders, and in fact, our understanding of feedback information is also, let's say, distorted by different perspectives, and sometimes it is just one word that solves the issue or makes a larger problem. Sometimes it's a gesture, sometimes it's just a look, and sometimes it's like okay, information feedback, it's not okay, information feedback. It doesn't have to be the long, lengthy statement about a grade or, written feedback. And this notion of trust has been mentioned so many times today. When we are in the trust sphere, when we are in the field, when we are in a sphere of trust, we can accept a little bit more even critical information, like, okay, I would say in my feedback, well, I would give more salt to this soup. And because in trust, it's still communication, it's not attack, it's not just negative kind of feedback. Let me expand on this. Trust is this trust and respect. Because respect, which is due to kids, parents, and teachers, mutually in a reversible way. So maybe I would raise the level higher, because we have trust, respect, information, and partly also about respect. Okay, maybe 2 words about respect. Do you know that giving feedback in respect to myself and to others may be taught at nurseries, at very early childhood education, and this is what teachers do. They teach students to communicate with respect to others in first grade, second grade. You can do it. You can make it. The thing is, we have to do it. When you mentioned learning or teaching, and then something that evoked a concept in my mind. It's like an idea after idea and after idea. We don't have to teach it. We do it. We live it. We show it. We be models. There is nothing like the teaching that you have to do about it. When I do it to you, almost automatically, because this is what you do about communication. Do you teach students communicate? They communicate because they communicate with us. So we are our models. We are their models. Okay, when we talk about facts, they are going to talk about facts. If they are going to give impressions or assessments, they are going to talk about assessments. Still, okay, there is a fight for microphone, which is a little bit difficult to
O to mi
hear.
chodziło, żeby tak było jak u Hitchcocka,
Okay,
nie?
but in fact, they are enjoying it very much. Okay, so we move to an idealistic situation that when kids follow us, they learn what to do next. But I'm not truly happy about this concept, and I'll try to expand on this. Now, I'm moving a little bit further. Maybe are going to be maybe slightly opposite to what you're saying, but this is not really true. In fact, in feedback, what is crucial is not talking, is listening. We can learn a number of models, we can have a number of tools, we can have, and we can make it authentic, natural. We are going to talk to one another, but the problem is, are we listened, and do we listen? Are we ready to listen? When we work with people in business environments, we very often talk that feedback is like a gift. It's a gift that I give you, but it's going to be valuable for you if you are ready to accept it. If it's not a win-win kind of exchange, forget it. That's lost. If one person does not want to say and the other person does not want to listen, no model, no recommendation, no model will work. Although I don't know what you really wanted to say, but I'm ready to say I disagree. In fact, psychology says it clearly. When you see what others do, you train, you model, you follow a model. Sorry, I mean, whatever you wanted to say, you're wrong. Okay, so that's more or less my point. This is not what I wanted to say. Okay, so I absolutely agree fully, with full hands, that kids follow us, that they watch us, watch in this learning sense. And what I meet in my life, yes, it's true, we are models, and our role of being models, of shaping, of being responsible models in communication is crucial. They watch us, it's called this modeling technique. So the way we do things with others is a model, whether we want it or not, to kids. There are difficult topics, there are complicated topics. And the way we talk about these horny social issues, they are likely to see the way in our cooperating, in a language cooperating about this. But what I wanted to say, this idealistic, it's not that I wanted to cross out modeling, but I believe that when kids like the ones I have in mind, like 15, 16, with very difficult life stories, who are not ready to communicate in a human language, if you know what I mean, without attack, without aggressiveness, where each word is assessed and they respond with feeling of being attacked. Please, could you read something? It's something. Do you think I'm stupid? You see, this is difficult, but it's very often the case that we adults showing our own example, but also we should also monitor, we should influence, we should shape, we should be more, as I understand this, we should be more directive about it. Trust, which we mentioned, it's a wonderful word, yes, I accept, but how to build trust in communities I have in mind? And let's maybe be very concrete about how to do it, how to make it. Okay, we are teachers, we have specialists in working with kids. Toleration, yeah, okay, I hate this word. It means nothing to me. Not in, in the sense of we need to translate it onto what to do. These are lovely umbrella terms. What does it mean? You have to be responsible. How to understand that? Respect others. What does it mean? I mean, you need to translate it onto real words. I believe that these words become full, become embodied because what we do. But when we talk about our way of school functioning and feedback, it is a basic tool. Because even if legal regulations concerning assessment and it's very often it's clearly said on pedagogical grounds that feedback information and feedback assessment is a feedback of a kind. So how to do it, not to frighten students. I'm sorry, there was a slip of the tongue which I won't be able to translate in reduced time. So how to make assessment a respectful communication. So we have a motto that we use. Evaluate me, value me, not only evaluate me. Okay, so appreciate me, not only assess me. So obviously in Polish that's a wordplay. Okay, assessment is the thing the thing I'm dealing with in my research career. I really love the way you presented me and my background because I believe that everything that happens at school is communication. I agree fully. I work with legal regulations at school, particularly dealing with assessment. So let me have a look from this legal regulations concerning assessment. We can talk about various types of communication patterns at school, but above this, there are legal regulations that also communicate something to all of us. So on the basis of behavior grade, which is only in Poland and Belarus, which is also telling, this is an important context. I'm not happy that Mr. Member of Parliament is no longer with us, because that would be a nice signal to our leaders. Okay, so regulations concerning this grade for behavior. Perhaps you know it is either you have a point-based or a so-called pupil profile. How can I develop trust and truly open myself to my students when they, let me quote from a regulation from a particular school, I really find it difficult. You have minus 20 points for self-harm. It is a difficult problem, and of course we are perhaps becoming a little bit less enthusiastic about it all, but there are such regulations. They go against regular or basic laws, rights of students, like assessing hairstyle, assessing your nail style. If we live in a reality like this, legal regulations communicate relations. The way, the things that communicates, whatever we do, even whatever you say about trust, you will not go outside of this box, because we have a behavioral regulations that say you are awarded and you are punished. End of the story. The statutory law is wonderful and nice and nicely written. When you have the act regulating statutes and regulations, you will see that assessment is informative, develops. So development, it motivates, provides parents and teachers with information, and and enables teachers to improve. And you have it everywhere in every document. And in fact, I would like to say that giving grades at level 1 to 3 in Polish system, I'm sorry I have no time to explain this to you, but very, very early stages of education is against the law. But in fact, this communication is shaped by the way you assess students, and it's a very strong message, very strong impulse. It reduces trust, it reduces respect, and kills communication, authentic aspect of communication. So, to cut a very long story short, as long as we have behavioral grading for nails, problems in relations and attacks or bullying, if you translate bullying into bringing 5 flowers, if you calculate crimes into positive behaviors, or if you have 17 obligatory, you have bring 17 grades because there is no way that we build communication and communication skill at school. Perhaps someone of you wanted to say, someone from the audience, if someone started talking, remember, school without assessment system. The first question about feedback. I'm sorry, when I'm speaking, can't hear. I'm waiting for the microphone.
No właśnie, to nie jest informacja zwrotna i przy okazji...
Tylko ciąg logiczny.
Tak.
To jest ocena.
Sorry, didn't get it. Okay, assessment as a formal assessment is one thing, but feedback, let me say, this is going to be a little bit difficult to translate. Let me call it strong criticism expressed in a relatively vulgar way. Okay, so that's the way how employees call the way they are given feedback in a business context. So in a school context, very often parents very frequently want to know where parents want to get information about where their student is. But we have a problem with parents. Is grade feedback information about what students know? I'm sorry, I need to synthesize a little because I cannot follow all the threads. They are very interesting, but that's undoable. Okay, so are grades informative? And they are now fighting for the microphone, so it's even more heated than you can expect. So, some parents do need information about grades. It's telling for them, because they calculate onto different point system. They even sometimes show off, and sometimes it's decisive for real-life decisions. So, in a way, grade system makes sense for them. But we won't be able to change the system bottom up. We turn it bottom up. I disagree. I believe some schools realize that school is a system. No, I disagree. School is people, and people work in different conditions. You can't try to look particular things that you do in different way. You can make people empower students, teachers and students empower them to think in a different way. So I think one thing is the readiness of a teacher to get out of the box, to say as students, you know, I'm not going to use grades. I'm going to change the way of thinking, to accept an idea from a headmaster. But then there is a problem, because then there is a problem that parents come, I'm sorry, but what's the grade for this topic? What's the grade for this subject? I don't have information. So that's actually a problem. In the school context where I have some feedback is given in a very, very concrete way. Like, okay, you do it quite well, and so on. Okay, so I like it very much. But then we talk about with parents, and the parents say, okay, it's nice feedback information, but is it 3? Is it 4? What's the grade? I need arithmetical. Okay, I would call it communicational disruptions that comes from misunderstanding of certain concepts. But feedback in this context is not the grade or what you get a week after a test. But that's, so that's a misconception about where to look for feedback information. We have two main paradigms in pedagogy or in education. One is constructivist, the other is behavioral or objectivist. And we are always in between. Legal solutions seem to be in a constructivist view. However, the way we work follows the objectivist way. So on the one hand, we have discipline, and then we want development. No, we do not want it, but we lack knowledge, and we don't have openness that things can be done in a different way. Honestly, those teachers that come to us, it wasn't explained to them what happens in the school, that we rebuild the culture of a school, that all stakeholders are at this and that stage. If students are said that, okay, listen, we are changing the way of assessment, and you can show, trust us. We will see if there is no 5 or 6 or, there is no grade. We will see that this is actually an empowered way. We want it, but there is far more knowledge that we need to build. I have 2 kids, I have 2 sons, and we often talk with parents. It's good that you say something to us because, I work here or there, I work in business or in hospital. School is what I was through, and, this is the whole world I know about the school. So the way I understand the reality is the way when I was at school. So I need more knowledge about it to be able to be more constructive about it. Okay, when we talk about school policy, about school gradeless schools, what we need to educate parents and working together with parents to deciding on policy together with parents and with students, because otherwise it will always be external to some stakeholders. Participation, that's the key word. Without participating, without democracy in decision making, that wouldn't be a success. If we have a regulation, we need to have them collaboratively constructed. This history I mentioned with these minus points, she didn't even realize that such details were in the regulations, because, we just formulate regulations because we formulate regulations. They, at some stage, stop being authentic. They stop regulating our practices. In fact, what we need is, there is always some system. It's sometimes good, it's sometimes bad, but we need to change things is a bottom-up movement, not waiting for top-down solutions. All those stupid regulations, I'm sorry to say that, like you can do this or you can do that, for instance, to compensate for negative points. As a foundation, we were also reviewers for a model school statutes. So please, you can consult our website and we can refer to. So let me recommend this statute, which is a non-dead statute, a friendly statute, what we call it a normal statute. And there is another book, we are developing a book, like a good grade in assessment, so how to assess in a normal way, in a model way. Let me add to this. I have this question that someone asked at the very beginning, that we move to these big umbrella terms and how to translate it onto daily practice. I think I have Jasper Juul, quote from Jasper Juul, Danish educationist. who said that in school the dominating emotion is fear. Everyone is afraid. The parent is afraid of a child's life success. Teacher is afraid of being assessed or being laid off. Kids are afraid of bad marks. So we have a culture of fear, and it's very difficult to change anything because, we stay in our zones. I know what is my grade, I know what it means. I'm not experimenting with it because it's dangerous. We heard about Icelandic context of mistakes, which in fact are the starting point for development, for change. So maybe we need to give ourselves a credit of the doubt to start changing things. What we need to do during communication processes is to allow to have students, to empower students, to make them want to come to the class. That's a different story, that's a different level. We need to have a learning process discussion here. Now, is it who is in possession, who is in charge of objectives in our class, in our school? Are they students or are they teachers? Teachers. So bringing teaching, changing teaching into learning as a key concept, that would change us. And that students could have objectives. And in all school without grades, the learning objectives are for students, and the core curriculum becomes students' curriculum. That's a completely different quality of communication. I don't have to, I want. That's the change of the perspective, that's the change of the mindset. What Isa said about this atmosphere of fear, this culture of fear. Look, Poland, in terms of psychological well-being of kids, where are we on the scale of other countries? This is one of the problems we have, is the problem of missing relations, problematic relations. We need to change it, and we need to change it from every school. Let me also say, let's not be too pessimistic about it. We have positive changes, we have positive trends. A lot of people are emphasizing that when we are fighting for big systemic changes, we may be lost. We have wonderful tiny little things going on also here in Lublin. Those experiences that shared with a lot of teachers with peer mediations. We have Jolanta Sobkowicz and her school. A lot of things, tiny little steps that can be made, can be taken, but we need safer atmosphere among teacher colleagues and readiness to accept errors as developmental stages instead of a communication, oh, I said that's going to be a mistake. Yes, it's true, things are going on more and more, things are more and more dynamic, more and more meetings with teachers, headmasters who decided for change pathways. In Łęczna, close to Lublin, there is a teacher who decided to work without grades. The only. No, she's not the only.
No I świetnie.
I'm happy to hear from the room here, from the lounge here, that there is a larger number of people who work without grades. So please feel welcome, accept our invitation to the family of teachers without grades. They do not generate relations, they only support the academic system.
Powiedzcie, czy jest ktoś tutaj na sali, którego
let's talk about teachers.
liczy 10 osób?
Do we have people here with the staff of 10 or 20 at school? 30? Who has 30 colleagues? Who has 40 colleagues at school?
Znajduje się w gronie pedagogicznym. W waszej szkole.
So how many people do you have
50.
teaching staff at school? How many? 50? Do we have more? 60? 100?
Super, dzięki.
All right, thank you.
Chodziło. To słuchajcie. W takim gronie
So if we have this group of people, how to build relations in such a big team? What do your meetings look like? How do you set goals together?
I wspólnych działań.
How do you plan action together?
Trudno, nie?
It's not easy,
Zobaczcie,
isn't it?
kiedy mówimy o zespołach,
Well, when
to
we talk about
fundamentem
teams,
pracy
the
zespołu
absolute
jest właśnie
foundation
zaufanie. O nim
of a
mówiliśmy.
team is trust.
Bo
We
inaczej
build on
pojawiają
trust.
się dysfunkcje
Otherwise, there are
w pracy zespołowej.
conflicts, dysfunctions
Jest
in
taki
teamwork. So
sposób na
there is a
to,
way
żeby ta rada pedagogiczna
to
funkcjonowała
make
w małych
teaching
zespołach.
staff
W małych,
work
zwinnych
well
zespołach,
in
ale
small,
jakby
agile
to
teams.
jest tylko taki
But this is
dodatek,
just
bo
beside the point.
jak w takim dużym
Now,
zespole
let's return to this question: how to cooperate in such a big team, how to build relationships, how to set goals that everybody is happy with, so that we make the same way. Well, I think finding one shared goal, I'm not sure if this is something that will make things easy or harder. Because if we think about how to change behaviors in larger groups, it's usually one person who is bold enough, making friends with another one. They both have this courage to change something, and a domino effect may follow. So sometimes a bottom-up initiative starts before the whole team changes. So, if there is a law or some regulations imposing goals from the top, it will not work. So, I think, in my opinion, every and each of us can do it. So, if someone says they don't give grades at school, so my question is, where did you take it from? Where did you have the courage to do so? So perhaps we should rely on such experiences. It's a real mine for best practices if we have certain paths already charted. Well, let me just say that we have come here together to focus on the future of our children. I think that's beyond doubt one of the goals of this conference, and teachers are, in a sense, a tool to help it, to help take care of the future of our children. And if there is cooperation, respect,
Tutaj mówię to, powtarzam, oczywiście,
and trust, still a lot depends on the individual, a lot depends on the administration of the school, because the administration, the management, they have some impact on their own staff, on the teachers. So again, we come back to communication, and the student should like to come to school, and the teacher should also like to come to school. So, as a headmistress, if I may, well, I represent my staff. I speak on behalf of my staff. I'm the face and voice of my team, but there is 60 people in my team, and we all make this institution. It's not only me. And although they cannot hear me now, I want to say I do appreciate what they say, what they do, because I hear a lot from them. They are not afraid to tell me, to speak their mind. I'm a direct person, and I appreciate people speaking openly to me. And as social therapists, people dealing with children, people having different soft skills, and this is absolutely fundamental to speak openly. But, well, people do have issues with that. But this manner of communication within a team is the best possible way, and we try to do it. But of course, the question is how it's done. I don't assess, I don't insult anyone, but sometimes I have to hold my team to account. And as you spoke about goals, this is different, but speaking about my work, we do have a goal in our team. Our goal is the well-being of children.
Mój zespół to
And my
60
team, again,
osób.
is 60 people plus. We have a relatively small school. It's pretty tight. We don't even have a gym. So we really stick close together. Sometimes we have not enough chairs during our meetings.
To, co chciałam powiedzieć, to no, że my musimy też
And
jakoś
we,
się
in a way,
komunikować, ale
we
jesteśmy
must
bardzo
communicate,
różni.
although we are
Jesteśmy
very
bardzo
different.
różni, mamy
Very
różne
different people,
swoje, nie wiem,
with different
światopogląd,
backgrounds, with different
pogląd może
outlooks,
wspólne, ale nie wiem, jakieś przekonania, idole.
different
Jesteśmy,
beliefs.
Ludźmi.
We are just
I
regular
mimo
people.
To, że
And
my się różnimy,
again, despite
dyskutujemy
all these
między sobą,
differences,
ale jeżeli chodzi o dzieci,
talk to one another,
my potrafimy,
we argue,
tak mówione,
but
nie wiem, Magda, czy ty mówiłaś, że te, czy
when it
ktoś,
comes
też nie
to
pamiętam, że te rady powinny
the
być jak najkrótsze.
well-being of children, we speak one voice.
Jeżeli ktoś mi
And our
przedstawia, ile,
staff
dzisiaj
meetings
potrwa
are not
rada, to
very
ja się zawsze śmieję.
short.
To jest pytanie, na które nie ma odpowiedzi.
And when people ask me, what time do we finish the meeting, I can never answer straightforwardly. Sometimes when we meet and we really discuss some difficult cases, we can speak about one child for an hour. And everybody wants to say something, and because we want to find a solution.
W takiej sytuacji, więc takim celem jest, to jest nadrzędny cel.
So that's the overarching goal, the well-being of children, and we are there because we know what we want.
Jeżeli chodzi o
And the final thing is,
no bo w zespole, który liczy tyle osób,
within such a big
mamy
team,
zespołów 5, plus no,
we have
kadra
5
kierownicza, bo ja
sub-teams.
jestem, jest mój pion,
Then
kierownicy
there is
różnych
the
zespołów,
managing
potem,
division
potem
and
reszta. To tutaj
some technical staff, so
naszej pracy są superwizje.
the key thing in our
To
work
jest też taki
is
moment,
supervision.
kiedy my, każdy zespół
So
ma takie superwizje, tak?
every sub-team has
nauczyciele, wychowawcy,
supervisions.
wychowawcy w hostelu.
Teachers,
I
educators,
my tam też możemy,
guardians,
ja jako dyrektor mam
and
swoją
me
jednoosobową,
as a head
tak,
mistress,
ale też mamy kierownicy.
and my managers,
To
we
rzeczywiście
also have supervisions.
bardzo,
And this is really
dużo pomaga.
really helpful.
Też, jak my to mówimy,
And
i nie tylko my, żeby czyścić relacje
as we
na
put it,
przykład, tak?
this
Że
may
jak
help
mamy między sobą
clear
jakieś
up
sytuacje
your
trudne,
relationships. I mean,
konfliktowe,
if there are
to
conflict
jest taka
situations, if there is
przestrzeń
some
właśnie,
tension,
pod okiem też osoby z
we can
zewnątrz,
just
niezaangażowanej,
clear it
tak,
out.
zaangażowanej emocjonalnie, my możemy się też jakoś między sobą dogadywać.
we can find ways to communicate, to see eye to eye with one another. Well, indeed, this respect is very important. In one of Bill Gates' projects, he stressed that teacher is one of the most important professions of the world. Why? Because the teacher builds the future of the state, of the country they live in. So when speaking about teachers, I think in this panel on communication we must say it.
Ważne jest też to, jak my komunikujemy
That
szkołę na
is,
zewnątrz.
how we communicate our school outside. The teachers don't have capacity to take care of the image of the school. But I sometimes say to the mass media or universities that communication about the teachers' work and school is very often negative. The many problems you have to deal with, you have this extra problem that school is very often associated with something wrong. It has very poor PR, in other words. So what we can do is to highlight innovations, highlight innovators, and communicate what is positive in your institutions and make this message really strong, because it's also a way to change school. So we have to think about how to communicate with the outside world. We have to show the best we have to show the best models, we have to show off with our innovators.
Mam taką myśl.
Well, there is a thought I wanted to share. We have spoken about evaluation at school, about grading,
Ale myśmy właśnie ocenili.
But what we have just done is we have just graded, we have just evaluated, because I think you, the audience, you may feel like you have been just graded by us. I think that wasn't the point, maybe, but there is a very thin boundary between information, communication, feedback, and grading and assessment. Of course, error is part of development, so we will also happen to fall into this trap of evaluation, of assessment, of judgment. So sometimes, whether you speak to someone younger or older, you should perhaps take a step back and say, I made a mistake, I was wrong. And that's my subjective opinion. Sometimes we are sitting on the stage, we are slightly above, we have the mic, so we have started to go slightly towards this judgment mood. So sorry if we have crossed this border. But basically, there's nothing wrong about it, but if we don't stick to it, if we don't continue, if we don't go too far, because it's necessary.
Dlatego nie poprzestajemy na diagnozie.
That's why we keep diagnosing, we keep gauging, measuring, as you do in your daily work. There are many points to be improved, but we cannot become, of course, too complacent, and we cannot stop there. That's why we keep working, publishing, researching. I don't have this feeling that we are judging anyone or the teachers here. Well, we're just talking about problems we have. We're talking about reality. And today I posted a message on Facebook about this conference. I just said we have this conference about relationships. Five times more people applied for the conference than there was room at the hotel. So it's a good message. It shows that we are here, but we want to take a step forward. We want to change. And as a university lecturer, I have this temptation to stop with the diagnosis, but I always try to take a step forward and propose a solution. And I believe that we are here to do the same. Going back to your diagnosis, to the diagnosis in the project, it didn't say about what Polish school is like. It was about what needs specific group reported. That's the difference between listening and judging. So we listened to the needs of these three groups, parents, teachers, kids. We didn't judge them in these recommendations. So we have collected needs. And another experience I wanted to share, because there's this question how, of course, that we keep asking ourselves. So my recent experience has been that I worked with a number of groups as a supervisor for teachers' groups, and it was a great experience. I even put it in the recommendations that I met people who came to me to talk to me, but also to one another. Like the staff meetings in your school, you share challenges. So when you leave this meeting, someone says, I'm no longer afraid, I'm no longer in conflict. Thank you for listening, thank you for sharing solutions. I was so emotional, I was blind to see certain things. So that's an alternative to judgment, to assessment. Very often when you finish your lesson, you judge yourself. You say, that was a failure, they didn't listen, that lesson was very bad. We do it. But how about looking at your work in a different way? Maybe you should appreciate yourselves for one specific success, communication success. that happen. Okay, let's start from tomorrow, all right? Or maybe Monday.
Tutaj Iza powiedziała,
Well,
że to
Iza
była diagnoza, a my staramy
is
się znaleźć
talking about
odpowiedź na to,
the
jak można
diagnosis,
to
and we are looking
zmienić.
for answers, how to
O to
improve
właśnie chodzi,
things.
żeby dać pewne
And that's the
przykłady
point, to
praktyki,
give
która
good
może
examples
pomóc.
of
I
best
zobaczcie,
practice that can
powiedzieliśmy
help.
sobie o tym, że mamy jakiś kryzys zaufania.
We're talking
To
about
zaufanie wybrzmiewało
trust
tutaj
crisis.
kilkakrotnie, prawda?
It has been said a couple of times.
Nauczycieli, jak i uczniów, jak i
And
rodziców.
teachers know it,
Co my
parents
możemy
know it,
zrobić, żeby to zaufanie,
even
poziom
students
tego zaufania
see it.
podnieść?
So
No
what
i
do we do
doszliśmy
to
do
raise
wniosku,
the level
że
of trust?
przestrzegać
Our
prawa
conclusion was
oświatowego,
to,
zmienić ocenianie
of course,
zachowania,
follow the law,
zrezygnować ze
but
stopni, wyrzucić
revise
ocenianie
the
zachowania,
assessment system,
spróbować
maybe
popracować
give
bez
up
stopni,
grades,
żeby
maybe
budować
give up
zaufanie i
assessment
budować
of
atmosferę
behavior,
współpracy, a nie
instead
atmosferę,
build
strachu,
an atmosphere of
żeby,
cooperation, not
zwracać
fear
się
and
do
anxiety.
siebie z perspektywy faktów, a nie
Maybe speak about
opinii,
facts,
żeby
not
patrzeć na siebie
opinions
jakby,
and judgments.
obiektywnie i żeby
Look
udzielać
more
tej informacji
objectively at
zwrotnej.
each other
Do
and
tego
give
jeszcze nie doszliśmy,
feedback,
używając komunikatu ja czy języka bez przemocy. Do tego języka
using
też nie
using
doszliśmy. Natomiast
non-violent
jeszcze
and
chciałbym wrócić do
unbiased
zespołu,
language.
bo
Perhaps we will
powiedziałaś
talk
o tym,
about it in a
że
moment.
jest zespół
Now, coming back to
nauczycieli, który
teachers,
liczy 65 osób.
to school staff, you said about your school. Well, I meant not only teachers, I meant all my personnel. Anyway, the designers of agile methodologies say that teams of 3 to 9 work most effectively, most creatively. Such a team, 3 to 9, they are able to build trust, they are most effective in achieving goals and focus on goals. And there is a solution that works well in many schools and kindergartens, small, agile teams that are much more effective. And now, perhaps you have to go beyond this subject-driven or theme-driven teams towards more cross-sectional teams. And something had just crossed my mind, and I wanted to say it. Do we have any students in the room? 1, 2, 3. Great, because my idea is we talk about communication at school, but what is missing is students. Why students are not saying anything? And it just dawned on me after this time that I would like to see, and I would like, perhaps I should have taken some of my kids, because I'm sitting here telling wise things, how to build communication, how to build trust, and what else can we do, but where are the kids? I'm so sorry I haven't brought my own pupils. I would be able, and you should be able to learn from them as well. And of course, this is what we also hear during our regional debates. Students should also be part of this, because they will carry on with these undertakings, ideas that we have talked about. They should also be part of this process. All right, one student wants to take the floor. Great. So can you say something? Can you contribute? Well, while listening, I took some notes, and I'd like to say it. As a pupil, as a student, I don't want you to be philosophers and theoreticians. Let's implement what we have learned from life, because as teachers, you know well what the problems are, and we don't have to say it, what the problems are. So please, next week, start from small changes, small steps next week. And I want to thank in advance those bold of you who will do it. And there is something like teaching experiment, so don't be afraid to experiment. My name is Jakub Klotz, high school number 23 in Lublin.
Dobrze, witamy Cię,
All
witamy
right,
Cię w panelu
Jakub, stay
ekspertów.
here on the expert
Bardzo
panel.
miło, zawsze uczniowie
We are
w
very
panelach
great,
mówią to, co myślą i to
and
jest,
we
jakby
also
bardzo
happen to
istotne.
invite students to our
Natomiast
panels. We want to hear
mówiliśmy
from them.
o dyrektorze szkoły i
And
tym,
we
że
spoke
jest,
about school
tym, którym
management.
stoi szkoła.
The headmaster, headmistress is a very important role. And in these project recommendations, you spoke about control. Of course, a headmaster must control, but their control should be more about watching the teaching process and provide support. And unfortunately,
studia nauczycielskie są.
many
Każdy
teachers'
pracuje
colleges
naułami może korzystać
we have, and not everybody can attend first quality university and learn from very professional instructors. Sometimes these teachers are just what we say experts in their own subjects, and they don't have any more competence. They don't know what to do beyond their own subjects. So what can we do? How can we support headmasters to support their own teachers and support them not by buying or paying for external trainer to teach them something over 2 hours? Yeah, but the word control that we have just heard,
swoich nauczycieli. Dla mnie to jest bardzo jakieś niepojęte.
this is something that I can't imagine that a headmaster can control teachers. This is something out of this world for me. The headmaster must trust his or her own team. They don't control, they just trust, they work together. So this is something beyond my imagination, that the headmaster controls teachers. Okay, agreed, but I used control, but I also said hold to account, to hold my team accountable. This is something else, this is a bit different. This is important, don't you say? And I think you have very cool headmaster. Do we have any headmasters here, by the way? Oh, yes.
Cieszę się bardzo.
Good.
Podstawą jest w
So
mojej
this is
pracy,
absolutely fundamental in my work.
Zaufanie.
I mean,
Ja
trust.
mam zaufanie
I have
do mojego
trust
zespołu,
in my team.
bo ja w ogóle jakby sobie... Słucham? Dobrze, to ale ja sobie jednak tu pozwolę szybko adwokat.
Okay, I'll just make it quick.
Powiedziała Magda. Zaufanie to jest absolutna
Trust
podstawa.
is
Ja
absolutely
sama
fundamental.
nie mam, jak to powiedzieć,
myself,
ja bym chyba, nie wiem co, zwariowała,
I would
gdybym
go
miała
mad
wszystko sama.
if I were to do everything on my own. Control, monitor, check. It's not my work. My work is to look, observe, diagnose. Teachers come to me with their problems, and I'm there to support them. And teachers, and perhaps you know it, teachers have a major problem with being assessed, with being judged, because it's very easy to judge your kids at school, but teachers are also afraid of being judged by their headmaster or headmistress. And this is exactly what is a problem in our system, and there is a potential for change around it. Well, you're saying you support your teachers, you support your staff, so where do you get support for yourself?
Ja mam, no tak, po pierwsze superwizja, ale
Well,
no bardzo nie byłam.
supervisions, that's one thing, but I haven't done it for some time. I'm going to have one, so I have someone supervising my work. Once a week, it's Friday, so I'm not there today. I have 4 managers leading each team, and they provide regular feedback to me once a week. So they are my managers, and we talk together, we just sum up the week, we plan what to do next week, or even ahead, because there are some exams or some other challenges ahead of us.
kierownicy moi
And my managers, they tell me about what is going on in their teams. Because of course, some people talk to them, some people will go over their heads and talk to me. So I have, a very big picture of what is going on at school. And they are my, I would say, consulting body. We have worked together for years, because I started in my institution as a teacher many years ago. I worked in different positions, maybe not in the kitchen. So I know my job, my school inside out. I'm not afraid to speak my mind. And I also, sometimes, if in need, I expect them to give me feedback. Well, you speak like an agile headmistress. Well, I am agile, why not? You can delegate, you can assign responsibilities, but to make things clear, the word control, going back to the word control, in our system we do have controls. We have the teaching control authorities, and of course control can have different goals. It can be also very supportive, and that's why I wanted to encourage headmasters, headmistresses to focus on control, okay, as control, but don't forget about support. Because teachers need your support to be able to change, to be able to improve their skills, to improve their communication. And the head teacher should also have support from the local government. Well, yes, but when working on our recommendations, we also heard that this control body should be not the same as supporting body. These two should be separated. So if I have a problem, I shouldn't go to the control body. Come on, we are afraid to do it, to say it to control body. We would like to speak to someone else. But now, if at school, like in your place, your people can come up to you and say, look, something's driving me mad, there's something I don't like, then this is the first message that you have great communication at school, that your people, your teachers are not afraid of you as a head teacher. They just come up to you and say what is eating them. This is a great thing to hear.
As said before, we are making mistakes. Teachers make mistakes. And to come to the director, to headmaster and say, I made a mistake, this and this and this, what am I to do about it? Okay, so let me... I often come to my boss and say, these are my mistakes, and this is what I learned from them. Okay, so let me respond to this. My teachers, my collaborators come to me and say, I also say to them that, I also say to them, listen, this was my mistake. I'm a teacher of Polish, and sometimes I make a mistake. I just, as everyone, we are often in the bad, and we try to. Okay, so that's a key skill, to be able to admit mistakes. We are not ideal. We are not perfect. We do admit mistakes, and we learn from mistakes. Okay, in the field of language, I'm not improving but is committing or admitting mistakes. We are using such expressions like admitting means it's automatically assessment, like we need to change the culture with mistakes. We need to rethink, reconceptualize what mistake is. And the student, Jakub, he said,
to, co powiedział Jakub, małe kroki.
small steps. That's the solution, because
każdy z nas może zrobić mały krok. To znaczy może na przykład
every
troszeczkę
one of
inaczej się
us can
komunikować z uczniów,
change
z
a
uczennicą,
tiny
osobą
little thing,
uczniowską,
communicating with your
tak,
colleagues,
ma jakiś
communicating with
problem,
your students,
zgłasza jakiś-
communicating
pojawia
with
się
someone
jakiś
who
błąd,
reports
to jak my pracujemy,
a problem.
znowu w
That's
tym
the
gronie
question,
to
how
są
we
takie
work
banały. Ja
in
nie
a
chcę wchodzić
particular
na pole,
particular
żebyśmy tutaj,
case,
rozmawiali
rather
o tym,
than
o czym wiemy,
what's your
ale to może
big
być ten nasz
strategy for
właśnie jeden mały
communication.
krok. Na jutro, na pojutrze.
That's
Jak ja reaguję,
the
jak ja pracuję
step
z
for
błędem.
tomorrow.
Zastanowić
That's
się,
the step.
zrobić
How do I work?
maleńki,
How do I
półcentymetrowy kroczek do
define
przodu.
a
Za tydzień
mistake?
znowu
How do I
centymetr,
process
zobaczymy,
it?
gdzie będziemy
Maybe
za
I'll
miesiąc,
do it
za
another
rok.
week. Maybe I do another step per another month. Okay, I've been to a London-based school who talked in English, who talked in Polish, and he said, well, our teachers inspire us to make mistakes, because this is how we can expand our competences. If not for mistakes, we wouldn't be revolutions like industrial revolution. There is a crisis-based development approach. If you would like to work on with your mistakes, in our foundation is we work with we work on mistakes. It's like error-based pedagogy. We try to develop the project with a project of accepting errors. I'm sorry I can't explain to you every detail because again wordplay that is explained, but that's a basically educational project where an error becomes a starting point for learning.
Jak pojawiły się hasła pod tytułem zwinne zespoły.
Okay, we have feedback, we have agile teams, and the basic of agile methodologies, and obviously they changed economy very much, is that production lines have information boxes where people could report, employees could report information for improvement. What kind of feedback methods can be used? That's my question to Jakub, to Kuba. How do you think you can report your ideas, your feedback to teachers? So, you know, I represent a local government and we are developing we are implementing this kind of device. A box where you could pin or you could put your remark, your suggestion. But the problem is for the time being that members of our team are not very motivated to do the job. So we are in the progress, but deep there. Okay, maybe it's not just a question of a bad will of your local government, of your student government. You know, even maybe even if we have great ideas and we are convinced something is worthwhile, and to start transformation, it's a relatively difficult thing to change our way of thinking. Because we are automated in certain actions, it's easier, it's more comfortable, it does not bring us out of a zone of comfort, and again it protects us against criticism because of mistakes. So we need time and let's give ourselves time for all those things to become true by adopting small step approach. Okay, you're good on the way, you're good on the trajectory, but don't expect too much of yourselves at one moment.
Zapomniałam, jak mi się przypomni, to dorwę się do mikrofonu.
Że tutaj może dyrektor pomóc w tym.
And the director can also be a pivotal figure who could help find people, those allies for change, those brokers of change. So basically, to build a team on the basis of Belbin test, who defines roles in teams or group team works with different people doing different things in different spheres of learning and action, and they could be complex teams.
Słuchajcie, patrzę na czas,
Now,
który
looking at
nieuchronnie
time
upływa,
that
a
is
nie
running out,
dotknęliśmy jeszcze
we
tematu
didn't even
współpracy
touch
z
upon
rodzicami i roli wychowawców.
cooperation with
I myślę,
parents
że
and of
powiedzieliśmy o
mentors.
ocenianiu,
We
powiedzieliśmy
mentioned
o
assessment, we mentioned
błędach, powiedzieliśmy
mistakes,
o nauczycielach
we
i pracy
mentioned
zespołowej
teachers in
nauczycieli,
collaborative
o
work,
roli dyrektora i
and
tego,
on the role of
tym, że
headmaster
on
or
jest
director
bardzo ważny w tym
as a
zespole
key,
nauczycieli,
paramount
bo on
figure for the
kształtuje
team,
też kulturę
shaping the
organizacyjną
organizational
placówki,
culture of a
chociażby
school,
delegując uprawnienia i tworząc
delegating
zespół,
the
który z nim,
responsibilities and building the team
współpracuje.
for
Mówiliśmy
cooperation.
o atmosferze
And we did talk
strachu,
about the
która nie
atmosphere of
jest
fear
atmosferą sprzyjającą
that is
w
not
ogóle
a creative,
funkcjonowaniu zespołu
that
i
is
szkoły.
actually
Powiedzieliśmy o paradygmatach
blocking
tym behawiorystycznym,
or disempowering
XIX-wiecznym, który właśnie
system. And we
kształtuje
said about two
obraz polskiej
paradigms
szkoły. I
that
powiedzieliśmy
are
o
fighting against one each other in the Polish
konstruktywistycznym,
context,
który daje
the
przestrzeń do
behavioral
rozwoju dzieciom,
versus the
który daje
constructivist
przestrzeń do
paradigm,
też
educational
dla
paradigm,
nauczyciela i też
the other
taki
offering
podkład
space
pod
for teachers and
komunikację.
students in a
Tak?
communicative space,
Dobrze?
negotiating
Było?
senses and
Tak
so
było,
that's
nie? To
more or less
wszystko
what we
wybrzmiało.
did.
Też chcę
That's more or less the
teraz,
list
tak.
of things.
Czy mi się
Do you
udało
agree?
już tak podsumować
Okay, so
trochę?
you know, I just
No,
want to be assessed
jednak w tych
positively by you.
rekomendacjach
That's
wybrzmiały
right. So, but in the recommendations, there were also parents as an important element of a school system, and this fear against or a fear of coming to the room, teacher room. So maybe let's talk about parents for the time being. Do you have ideas how to integrate parents better, closer into this constructive exchange of information, constructive partner-based feedback? Our legal regulations, our statutory regulations make it clear. Teachers are schools' partners. Is this a case? Is this a matter of fact? Sorry, somebody
Ale
is
dziękuję, że to
talking,
powiedziałaś. Dziękuję. Czy wy jesteście przekonani o
Are
swojej
you
wartości jako
convinced that
nauczyciele? I macie
your value as
przekonanie, że
teachers,
to, co
are you
robicie,
convinced
robicie
of
dobrze?
of being assessed positively,
Tak.
of
To
what you
bądźcie
do
tacy
going on the
pewni, bo
way?
jeżeli wy
So
będziecie
do it,
pewni,
follow that
to
line. If
no nie
you are
każdy może być
assured by
nauczycielem,
your
tak jak nie każdy może być lekarzem.
assured
I
by
my
your
często
pathways,
uciekamy przed
keep
tymi
it.
rodzicami, jak
Sometimes
wychowając
we
się
are
w skorupkach
afraid of
tego braku
of
pewności
parents
siebie. A przecież wy jesteście
being
fachowcami,
unsure
wy
about what we
skończyliście
do,
pedagogikę,
but you are
wy
specialists.
możecie powiedzieć,
You're
my
experts.
wiemy
You
najlepiej,
know
jak
what to do.
pracować w szkole.
We know how to do it.
Proszę, z pytania z sali zawsze kierujemy przez mikrofon, bo nasi
Please
słuchacze
remember
muszą
that.
przeczytać, więc jeszcze
Please
raz
remember to
może
use
krótko
mics when
panu-
asking a question.
Tak, Pani Wiesiu, bo Pani zabrała głos? To przepraszam.
Ja powiedziałam, że dzisiaj
I said that today parents very often have very strong, maybe if not almost aggressive behaviors, and it's good that parents have this strong point of view, but sometimes this borderline between balance between engagement into school, it's a little bit more aggressive rather than constructive way. In Iceland, because my experience is definitely closer, it's very often said that experts, teachers are experts in education, and parents and their kids. My name is Jonata Gondecka. I teach in primary school. And I was also a supervisor of a school, local government school government. When I worked in some time ago, we created a platform for a, let's say, non-formal platform. This is called Local Authority Night. And we spent a night, truly and authentically, inviting everyone who wanted, who wished to participate, directors and anyone, to have space and time to talk. Outside the main context, this time factor, that it must be outside of class context, outside of curriculum context, and listen what they have to say.
Bardzo ważne też w tej komunikacji.
Crucial in this communicative context between the home and school is breaking schemata, breaking stereotypes. And I often mention this when talking about parents. Usually we think about when parents communicate with school is about crisis, something bad happened and you need intervention. One day I said that parents, we regularly, on a regular basis, we hardly send positive feedback to teachers. Thank you very much for the class yesterday, because my students were happy about the classes. You know, next day I have a phone call from a class that the box was full of positive feedback from parents because they, in a way, decided to storm with positive feedback. This is the tiny little thing you can do to get contacted not only when crises arise, but when we have regular communication also on good things, on positive impulses. And one more thing, I'm thinking about Jakub and all those things that happened in the space. Okay, we have 17 minutes, so everyone will have a chance for a roundup. Perhaps will be, you know, those electronic assessment sheets. I'm afraid they break some communication. They are a little bit disruptive, maybe distorting to communication. That's my opinion, but you know, parents are very often unhappy about there is something wrong, some information, some feedback. Because, you know, she's talking about an application which reports to parents, you know, in real time, bling blong, something happened to John. Bling blong, no, nothing happened to John. Bling blong, John got 5. No, blah. Okay, so parents are out of context, and then they get information, they can do nothing about it. So when there were meetings, regular meetings, where parents were coming to schools, this communication gets technical and becomes flat, becomes deprived of relatedness. So this is what I'm trying to say. Some applications make it a little bit primitive. Obviously, you know, those students' records, those applications, they are tools. You can use them positive or a negative way. So obviously it's maybe also about the culture of using them. But then building trust, building relations, I believe it starts with some opening introduction at the very early stage of an educational year, of a school year. We have certain problems with public trust, educational trust, and you have research that shows that the position of a teacher is in a way going down. That I'm not very happy to know that parents are not looking at teachers as leaders, but they like service providers in a way. So you know, we need more communication at the beginning of academic year to break certain academic school year, to have certain stereotypes ruined, got rid of, because we need to build certain methodologies, objectives. This is what we want to do. I would like to get your help, and as a parent I would like to get from the school. So we make this contract and we put it out of the shadow, to put it out of these worlds which are obvious to us, but they are in opposition to one another, and they do not allow, you know, we are aliens, and in this situation, you know, as if aliens living on different planets and unable to communicate. Unless we show respect, unless we break barriers of fear, unless we are no longer afraid afraid of making mistakes. We accept those different worlds, but we still are looking for shared spaces for communication and cooperation, because that would give us a chance to understand that we are not against one another, and that communication of any kind is either because we are not able to express ourselves well, or the grade system is not perfect, or that we are able to contract clearly what can be expected, what cannot be expected. Why we do certain things, I believe this predefinition of certain system would help us. That's my experience of being teacher, of working with businesses, and being a teacher at the same time. I strongly agree with what you were saying, with building this communicative framework from the very beginning. But this precision in defining objectives, of supportive areas, of supportive actions, and making this educational contract a project-based approach helps very much. I absolutely agree with Ania. I'm sorry, I forgot your name for the time being. I'm happy with the strong interaction. This cooperation between the school and house or home is vital. Maybe I would just say that the teacher should cooperate with the home environment as a partner and not as an either idol or as a service provider. If the teacher believes that the parent is not secure enough in getting the right, so-called right message, precise message in information, they should try to get some support for the parents and for the teachers, some training, some kind of collaborative action. I believe this panel presenting the Icelandic school system, we can observe for the time being that Poland is a space where meetings occur, three-party or tripartite meetings with parent, teacher, and student, teacher, and parent meet to talk or to solve a problem, or to agree on assessment. Because once again, following the legal regulations, this final assessment is negotiated, and it does not come from mathematics or arithmetics. So, following the self-assessment of a student and the way they approach the contract and contractual obligations is a way how assessment space could be organized in relation to parents with parents. As far as Icelandic inspirations, I think, Magda, it was this description of a contract. Who is responsible for what? The teachers are responsible for education, parents are responsible for kids. I think you need to name it, to call a spade a spade. I work a lot with teachers, and I'm a partner, and I think we have a confusion about responsibilities in Poland. I remember that meetings about parents having wonderful ideas about what education should look like, with grades, without grades, with homework, without homework. I remember one meeting where a teacher said, I'm happy with sharing of your opinions, but I'm responsible for the educational process, and when you would be happy to hear my opinion or what I'm going to do in my classroom. She was really, she took responsibility for the process. I'm ready to accept support, but I'm the responsible one. I'm the accountable one. We as teachers, let me remind you, we are obliged to take responsibility for organizing, for managing, for arranging the process. But I also believe that teachers should be communicated directly that that learning is not the responsibility of a teacher, but of a learner. And that's a separate responsibility, and it's the responsibility of the kid whether they accept the task, whether they accept the challenge. Our task is is facilitation. Our task is the scaffolding. However, what they do is their job. And I think this clarity of objectives is crucial. And now we are moving to this notion of knowledge. Obviously, the share of responsibility and stuff like that. But the problem is that parents of our kids today, their understanding of what knowledge is, what learning is completely different. They were in a different school. So what we need to explain what changed, what is the difference between their school system and our system. We need to communicate, we need to teach parents, and in this way we will also show areas where parents can help the kids become players in education. And let me be back in this assessment story, because what we need is also parents' assessment of their kids, how to participate in communicating assessive feedback to their kids. I think it's crucial. Paweł Fortuna, during one debate, said about moral function of assessment is the worst thing to do is to make students study for someone else.
I też jeszcze ta wielokrotność oceny.
This multiplication of assessment that we have. I have negative assessment at school, right? Maybe at some schools, I don't want to generalize too much, but generally we learn or we study, we do our objectives, we do our tasks. Now, so one, you get your assessment from school, another, you go to the home, oh, it's one, parents say. So you get another assessment, so, you know, it's like psychologically speaking, too many levels of assessment, positive or negative, does not lead anywhere. It leads to negative self-concept. That's another problem with self-assessment or assessment. Yeah, you have this toleration umbrella term, it's pedagogization. I mean, if you want to make your parents responsible for pedagogical objectives, but so you know the problem is you cannot expect parents to be secondary teachers, but that does not mean they do not have to have competencies for talking about educational systems, this educational function of the family. You can do it in a different way, not just replicating school stereotypes, but to develop competencies to approach these issues from a different perspective. Everyone has their problems, everyone has their crises. They also want the kid to follow the school system, to a life system. Sometimes they do not have tools how to do it. So how to do parents this ability? Well, to invite them to the three-partite school council. Why only teachers? Why only directors? Why not have teachers there? Sorry, parents there. Okay, we are over with parents and we are running out of time. So maybe a roundup session, 45 seconds to close this panel. Okay, let's start with Jakub. No, Maciek?
Że ja? Ja bym chciał tylko jednej rzeczy.
I would just mention one thing. Give yourself the right to write errors and enjoy the errors, because errors are a creative sphere. I mean, Nike had this kind of creative campaign, like we are paying you for your errors on demand, assuming that you are making them once. I mean, they are growing on your mistakes. My point would be start with ourselves and acknowledging our effects, acknowledging our processes, not necessarily effects. Okay, my final remark is I'm happy that we are talking and I'm happy to be here. I'm so happy that
bardzo,
that you
ja
organized this
powiem trochę
meeting.
tak, jakby
And let me
co
maybe
może nie
say,
do was, bo tutaj
maybe
już,
not to you,
Mirek
not
nawet
to
wytygował, mówiłam, że jestem gaduła,
not
więc już,
precisely to you, but maybe somewhere
natomiast dla mnie to
generally
jest
in the air and the
bardzo
public.
ciekawe,
I think
co
what is
ja
crucial, what I've heard
gadam,
here,
to też słucham i to, co ja od was też usłyszałam, też od was.
so
tak,
the information that
koleżanki
I
i
have from you,
kolego
from all of you
z
here,
Islandii.
from
Myślę, że
Icelandic
też będę miała
colleagues,
okazję gdzieś
that I
tutaj
had an
w tak zwanych
opportunity,
kuluarach jeszcze z,
maybe to
z wami
talk even
porozmawiać.
further with
Zapraszam
you.
już do takich rozmów gdzieś tam
You know, so I'd be happy to be part of such talks, and
Mi się
also would
dużo
invite
tutaj
you
otwiera
to
jeszcze
talk with me.
różnych furteczek,
I'm being open to many
na
further
razie to mi się
avenues
tak
and
tutaj wszystko
options,
gotuje w
and I'm
środku
still in
i
the process
głośno
of
i ja sobie-
putting it
ja się
together.
cieszę,
I
bo
need to
ja
think
się
it
też
over. I'm happy
sporo
about the
tutaj
meeting. I'm enthusiastic
nauczyłam.
about
Mam o
what is
czym
going on,
myśleć.
and
Bardzo,
a lot
bardzo
of
dziękuję,
food for
że mogę
thought,
tu być.
and happy to be here with you.
Iza?
Tak, już Jarek na mnie patrzy.
Okay, we are really running out of time. Okay, so
Ale mi przychodzi do głowy,
one thing
że,
that comes to me.
żebyśmy
to my
wszyscy
mind.
bardziej słuchali.
Let us
swoich
all
dzieci,
be
swoich
open
uczniów.
to listening to our
Też żebyśmy mieli odwagę
kids
mówić o sobie,
and
nie z pozycji
students,
roli, autorytetu,
and
nauczyciela,
to learn to
tylko ja
talk
jako
about
Iza,
ourselves
ja jako pani Kasia,
about,
Gosia,
from
pan
the
Jarek,
position of
ktokolwiek
ourselves,
inny. Co ja
less
czuję,
from the
w czym ja
position of
jestem, jakie
authority,
mam potrzeby.
deontic
Budowanie
authority.
relacji to nie
What
jest
is
rola
my need?
do roli, tylko
What
to jest
is
styl
my
człowieka.
expectation in our human-to-human contact? My
To ja
final
powiem
word
o-
is
czasami nawet
about.
mam cały warsztat albo wykład,
Sometimes
który się
I have
nazywa,
the whole session,
jedno
some
zdanie,
training
które
session,
zmieniło moje życie.
one word,
I lubię o
one
tym
sentence
rozmawiać.
that changed my
Wielu z
life.
nas
I very
ma
often
w
like
swoim
to
historii
hear
takie jedno
such
zdanie, które
sentences,
zmieniło
such
nasze
statements
życie
that
na
change our life,
pozytywnie
that
lub
transform our
negatywnie.
life, in either
I
good or
bardzo
bad
często
way.
było to zdanie wypowiedziane
And
przez
very
nauczycielkę,
often that was the
nauczyciela.
statement made
I
by
jak
my
ktoś
teacher,
mówił,
by
że
somebody's
ten
teacher.
zawód nasz to jest
So,
tam jakiś,
for instance,
to ja sobie myślę, ilu
you know,
osobom po prostu
that's
życie,
the role of
oby na
our
dobre,
profession.
na stałe,
That's this
tym jednym
power that
zdaniem.
we
Także ta
have
komunikacja
of
czasami to jest
issuing
to
this
jedno
one
zdanie, które
sentence
ktoś
that
usłyszał.
change
Mam
our
takie swoje
life.
zdanie w historii, które
I
po prostu
do have a
przewróciło moje
sentence of
życie.
a man that
I to była
turned my
nauczycielka
life
języka
completely
polskiego. Ona
upside
oczywiście dobrą
down.
robotę
That was my
zrobiła,
Polish
także,
teacher, and
no to tak ode
you
mnie
know,
w
that's
temacie
my sum
komunikacji.
up in the field of
No
communication.
dobrze, dzisiaj
All right,
rozmawialiśmy,
so
jutro będziemy
we
rozmawiać, a później
we are
przyjdzie
talking,
czas na
we have
działanie
been
i
talking,
wdrażanie.
and we'll be
A
talking.
jeżeli
But my
ktoś nie
point
będzie
is
wiedział, jak to zrobić, to mamy
implementation.
multum organizacji, które
How
nam
to
w tym
do it?
pomogą.
So we have a number of organizations that we can go and consult to turn the talking into action. Okay, many thanks for inspiration talks and meetings. Everyone here in Lublin and for invitation of our Icelandic partners to the partner. I'm really privileged to be part of the project. I'm really draw a lot of inspiration today and the day before that I'm going to take with me from Lublin. And I'm particularly for my cooperation with Polish parents and students, and I needed this, say, Polish feel and cooperation with you precisely in Poland. And you know the situation. You are great. Thank you very much, and I believe you are on a very good way to transformation. I'm so happy that Kuba became a member of our panel. This was a very fruitful and a very strong voice. Let's not be afraid of changes. Let's not be afraid of transformation. Big change never happens on a click of the fingers. You need to think it over, you need to plan it, and you need to make these particular steps. And let's move towards those people who talk, who have ideas, and who support. Magda said at one stage in her panel that they are very often watching what's going on in science and research in empirical analyses. We also have diagnosis, we have data, and we have interviews. But we also have a number of positions that show us what to do and how to do it. This communication offers a lot of literature to consult and to learn and to use as training. Also Alfie Kahn's like education without reward and punishment. And I think there's a lot of traces and trends that you can use. I was privileged to have been a moderator for the panel and using a lot of your experiences, words and thoughts. And I would like to finish off saying thank you very much to all of you who are here with us at the panel. Daria Chmiel, Director Head of the Youth Social Therapy Center. Many thanks to Ania Kędzierska and Maciek Cichocki from Opowiedz to, Stop Talking, Just Say It. Many thanks to Professor Sylwia Skulska. Many thanks to Magda Elizabeth Andres Dottir, Department of Education and Youth, City of Reykjavik, and Kuba. And obviously to Iza Meza for recommendations, project recommendations, and to all of you, members of the audience, and that you stayed to the end of our panel before lunch for so many times.